Hello guys. So this is kind of an interesting one. This was released in select theaters, so I did see it in theaters, so I do count it. But this wouldn't be something you would typically see. It's a concert movie from the band Ghost called Right Here, Right Now. Um, this is, and I'll get to some stuff about it in a bit here. But this movie is 2 hours and 25 minutes long. Has 8.7 out of 10 on IMDb with 1,600-ish user votes. It doesn't have a Metacritic score. Um, so the stars of it and the director of it are people associated with the Ghost Band, like Tobias Forge, the lead person. He's a director. Stars Marilyn Facey and Alan Urcilo. They're kind of done other video stuff with Ghost, so that's kind of what they're associated with that. Um, the movie on Rotten Tomatoes, there's not a critic score for it, but there's an audience score of 99% with 500 ish audience people. There is no consensus of it, but so here's the story of this movie. So this band goes. This is kind of one of those kind of rock bands that has gained a lot of fame over the years because of their artwork albums and the cool thing, a story with it. Now there's been rock bands in the past that have lore attached to them, like Kiss or what Kiss, Slipknot, any bands that have a little story behind their members or the band and stuff. Even the fictional ones like Metalocalypse with Deathlock and all that. There's stuff like that. Um, the big thing with with this thing, this is kind of a conglomerate. So along with the lore and stuff, there's been short films on the Ghost YouTube channel or whatever that build on that lore. All that stuff's available online. There's even YouTube videos. There's a really good one that my wife showed me because she's a big Ghost fan. She showed me, and it kind of caught me up with stuff after the movie. And I will say this, you don't really need to watch that stuff going into the movie, kind of. There is a little bit of a narration in the beginning that kind of catches some things up a little bit with it. I will say this movie is mostly concert, but there are cutscenes in between songs or little groups of songs or stuff. And I will say the cutscenes, they're really good. They're hilarious. Like this is like in the short stuff I recommend too because it does build on it and they're hilarious too. This I will say it's very fun getting into a band like this because the music is really good and really consistent quality. Hasn't really been a droppage of quality in this group, especially with other Ghost fans. Now, I have seen them live once with Corey and friends. And then watching this, I will say this: if you already seen them live, especially recently watching this show, especially there's not gonna be anything really new except for the cutscenes. But seeing it in theaters is really good. Um, but I will say this: it is a certain style. It is something that you definitely have to gel with because like I said, it's a certain style. Think of the style as something like Burton-esque kind of quirky humor, because the joke with this thing, with the group and everything, with the lore and all that, is that it's kind of one of those things where, hey, you know we're really, it's kind of the Addams Family tropes where we're extreme, but we're still kind of charming and quirky and stuff. That's kind of the main thing with it, but it's executed really well. It's really fun to get into, and that's the thing. Like, the thing with what makes this movie work too, especially as a concert film, like, I think it's kind of a good semi introduction to Ghost. Like, if you showed them this, then like if you showed them this and they didn't get into it, then they're probably not going to get into anything else with it. But this is a good thing to hook them in. Now, as a concert film, I haven't seen a lot of concert films. Another good comparison to this would probably be the Spinal Tap movie, except if the Spinal Tap band, 80% of the movie, well, not maybe more like 70% of the movie was just the Spinal Tap band performing with the extra stuff in between. But it's very much like that. It's very much kind of Spinal Tap like humor in a sense. Maybe not so much like talking to the camera, but definitely in the quirkiness, kind of the lightheartedness and the vibes. But like I said, even though it's not required because I wasn't really super familiar with it, it is something that you probably are going to want to look at if you dig it. Now, the music, like I said, is really good. The concert film, I mean, the numbers don't lie. It's really high up there, and there's a reason for it because it's filmed really well. A lot of good cuts, a lot of good direction. I will say this: if you already, like I said, if you already seen them live, you're not really seeing anything new, especially if you saw them live recently. So that is something to keep in mind when you watch this. That it's good, but you've kind of seen it. You're really in it for the cutscenes, the lore building, and I will say this: it's very fun lore to get into. It really is because it's interesting, it's unique, it feels original, and it's consistent, and it does hook you in a little bit, and it does make you want to look into the next stuff that's released, the next album, the next direction. It's really good in that regard. I can't think of really any negatives on it except for the fact that I wouldn't call this a water movie. This isn't something that anyone can drink. This is definitely something that if you're going into this, that you're either going to like or you're not going to care for. And if you like it, you're going to dive even more into it. If you don't care for it, then it is what it is with that. But as concert films go, this is really good. And I haven't seen a ton of concert films, but this is a really good one because I have seen them live, and I think they did a great job with a lot of the stuff. And to be honest, I am intrigued in seeing when they're going to release it on DVD because I think once it does, I think it's going to blow up like crazy. But Ghost is kind of an interesting rock band in that I don't think they didn't really start getting really, really big, I feel like, till later on in their cycle. And you could argue that a lot of the rock bands were like that. I mean, hell, Pantera had a whole ass life in the 80s before they got famous in the 90s. I mean, it's not an uncommon thing, but especially nowadays with the rock music genre kind of in a weird spot for a long time, I am noticing rock music starting to come back into the mainstream a little bit. Not in a traditional sense like we're used to, like especially when I grew up, but in little things. Like you start hearing it more in shows and movies and characters and stuff. It definitely, in video games and stuff, it definitely feels a little bit more accepted in that stuff than it used to be for a while. Because for a long time, it just didn't feel like it ever existed. But I will say this about Ghost. I think if there's one band right now that will hook people back into rock music, I will pick this band for it because they have everything that works well today. You have a hook, you have good lore, good story, good music. Like everything is just set there. And it didn't happen overnight. It took place over a while. Like they didn't get where they're at right now without establishing shit first. But yeah, overall this is really solid. I definitely recommend. Well, first of all, I would say probably listen to some songs first. If you love the songs, then everything else will kind of follow after that. But I would probably start with that. But yeah, I don't know when this is going to be out and when this is going to be watchable or not. I don't know, but when it does, it's definitely something I do recommend seeing if you get into their music. But yeah, outside of all that, that's going to do it for this one here, guys. Thanks for watching. In case you guys wanted to chat with anyone at the Campy Company, didn't want to use the YouTube comment section, we do have a couple options. First one is we have a Discord channel. You can find a link to that in About page / About section of our channel. We also have a community tab in our channel as well. You can access that anywhere at any time. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like the videos, and have a good day.